Welcome to Talking Technology with NCBI Labs, where we believe that technology is the single greatest enabler for people with sight loss and all disabilities. If you are interested in the latest technology news, products, and innovations, then you've come to the right place.
I am here to haunt your dreams.
Trick or treat, everybody. Hello and welcome to Talking Technology episode number 43 for the 31st of October 2023. Well, can you believe it is already Halloween? Yes, the ghosts are out, the spirits are out. It's really exciting. We're hoping that we won't have that many gremlins in the system this evening, but who knows? We shall have to wait and see. Well, hello, welcome in. We do have a packed show coming up for you over the next while. I must admit, I've always felt a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to Halloween and trick or treat. I actually find it kind of awkward, I must say. I'll be totally honest with you, because you always get, the kids who'll come to the door, and there's so many of them, and it's pitch black. Obviously, the clocks have gone back now, so it's dark when they're coming, and I simply cannot see how many there are. So I have to be like, how many packets of Haribos do I need here? It can be quite difficult. And then there's always that one child too who will always reliably ask, What do you think of my outfit? Who do you think I'm dressed as? And I'm not able to help much with that, unfortunately. But there we go. I don't have to deal with any of that this year, because I can rest assured that I am not going to have any trick-or-treaters here in my office. There isn't going to be anybody knocking on my door, I assure you. Oh, wait now, what? Wait, that's... No. Oh, this can't be right. This is, there's weird things happening. It's Halloween, but there you go. I think it's going to be a weird little show. Let's see how we go. We do have a packed show for you coming up on this Halloween night, I must say. So we'll be covering all of the goings on from last night's scary fast event from Apple. It was a late night. Last night. The event was on at midnight Irish time. That's fairly late for us here, but hey, we watched it, we enjoyed it, and we'll talk all about the new Mac computers that are coming down the road too. We'll be talking about that in just a bit, and later on in the show we will be talking all things Braille. Loads to talk about on the Braille front as always, so do stick around for that too. If you do want to get in touch with us, as always, you can send us an email to labs@ncbi.ie. That's labs@ncbi.ie. Or if you're joining us live on Microsoft Teams, you can use the Q&A panel right here on Microsoft Teams. So loads of ways to interact with Talking Technology as always, and we really hope you do. So let's get down to business then, shall we? Apple's Scary Fast event took place last night, and as you can guess by the name, it had a Halloween theme, not too dissimilar from this very podcast. I assure you, we planned it well before Apple did. I tell you that for nothing. But they had a Halloween-themed event very late last night, but they announced a whole load of new processors, Macs, all sorts of cool new stuff. And to tell us all about it, we are joined on Talking Technology by the one and only Joe Lanigan. Joe, how are things?
Hi David, how are you? I'm good, thanks.
Good. Joe, firstly, before we get into the Apple stuff, are you a Halloween fan?
Yeah, I am a Halloween fan, to a degree. I suppose all this knocking on the door, I can only take so much of it, but the kids love it, and my kids will be going out trick-or-treating later on, and we have all the little bags prepared, 30-something bags in a cauldron at the door, so they can pick them up with their crisps and Haribo jellies and you name it.
Yeah, that's the way to go. So, Joe, let's talk about all things Apple. Scary Fast event last night in more ways than one. It was only 30 minutes. It was quite a short one this time round. Do you like the shorter events?
Well, yeah, I suppose I like shorter events, like everybody now. All these videos and stuff things are getting shorter and people like content in short bursts. But I suppose it was shorter because there wasn't a lot of announcements. You know what I mean?
Sure.
There was probably 3 main announcements, and they mentioned their new chips as well, of course, the M3.
Alrighty, so let's talk about all that then, shall we? The event took place at midnight last night, very late. I did actually stay up for it, mind you, but there we go. Maybe that says more about me than anything about Apple, but hey, we roll with it. What stood out to you last night, Joe? Was there anything that you saw that was like, oh, that's interesting?
Yeah, well, I think what really stood out to me was the iMac, 24-inch iMac. It's something I would be interested in getting. I think maybe not next week or anything, but definitely down the line. I like the fact that it has 6 speakers, obviously an amazing screen, of course. Anyone who doesn't know what an iMac is, it's a personal computer that has it's a screen with a personal computer built in. So all you get is the screen and a keyboard. You can put your screen either sitting on the desk or up on the wall. So this particular iMac has 6 very powerful speakers, and it has studio quality microphones, and it has a Bluetooth keyboard with Touch ID on it. So I liked all them features. That was the most impressive part to me. I liked the fact that we can do FaceTime calls or conference calls on this machine, and we'll have a studio quality microphone, so that sounds impressive to me. That would be one of the reasons I would get the iMac if I was going that direction.
And of course, for visually impaired,
that was the biggest announcement.
It's also got the center stage. The center stage, so you'll stay in the center of the frame. If you are visually impaired, and oftentimes visually impaired people can find it difficult to stay in the center of a frame if they're joining on a call with their camera on. But the iMac can, like many of the iPads, can help with that.
Yeah, center stage. I really love that feature. Yeah, I suppose with a normal laptop, you can never be sure if you're in the middle or you're over to the side or wherever, especially if you have a visual impairment like myself. And for totally blind people as well, trying to figure out if they're in the middle of a frame. Center stage is a really cool feature.
Absolutely. Joe, there were also new MacBook Pros announced yesterday, and there are 3 new chips: the M3, the M3 Pro, and the M3 Max. Did anything from those stand out to you, or are you kind of like, well, it's just an upgrade to what was there already? How are you kind of feeling about it?
Well, to be honest, David, I thought last night's launch was a little bit boring and repetitive. It was like everything here is faster and more efficient. We heard them words a lot. And I think they really drove home the fact it was the M3 chip was a lot faster than the M1. And the reason I think is they want people to upgrade from the M1 to the M3. They're not that worried about the M2 owners. I think they'll probably hold on to their machine a little bit longer. But they're trying to get the people on the older machines to upgrade to the M3. So basically what the M3 chips mean is they're faster, really. You know what I mean? They're just a lot faster than the older chips. And they're moving totally away from anything Intel. And they probably didn't slag off Intel, but they kind of made the point that if you have an Intel, this is probably 24 times faster than any of your Intel Macs that had Intel chips involved, installed. So that was the main push on the M3, and also the fact that it will be a lot faster for people who love gaming. So if you're into gaming, and obviously the screens will be magnificent, they'll be really a lot brighter and support. They mentioned the word billions of colours. I didn't know there was a billion colours, but they mentioned that they'll be a lot brighter and support a lot more colours. And for gamers, it'll be a really big thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned there, that in some ways it felt a little boring, that they were kind of just, it was faster. And I think they used so many phrases, it's got it's wicked fast. It's got monstrous speeds. It's scary fast. They had so many Halloween themed ways of saying, yeah, lads, it's a bit faster, which was kind of interesting to see. You mentioned there that it was kind of boring. I did notice, all right, that there was a lot of references to stuff that the Mac had been able to do for years. Like they did mention, I think there towards the end, the integrations between the Mac and the iPhone. And specifically, they were like, you can take a call on your Mac. And you've been able to do that for years. I've a MacBook at home from, goodness, must be 2017, 2018. And you can do that on it, you know. So it's interesting to see that they're really trying to pitch this, I think, to the upgrading Mac user, but also the new Mac user. They weren't trying to be flashy about this is what it can do that's new. They were just really trying to hit home it's better than what was there before, but not necessarily new.
I think so, and they're probably trying to pull people over from the Windows as well and say, look, you can do everything on your Mac. You can answer your phone calls and all that kind of thing. I suppose the other thing that might interest vision impaired people is maybe this has been there already, but they said it was new. Is you can take a picture, or you can receive a PDF on your iPhone, or take a picture of a receipt or something on your iPhone and make it appear straight away on the screen of your iMac. You know, so that might be quite useful. It'll transfer seamlessly over to the iMac. So if you're taking a picture of a receipt or an invoice or something like that, and you want to read it in bigger writing, or just want a voiceover maybe to read it, it might be useful to have it on a bigger screen.
For sure. Joe, could you ever see yourself being tempted, and I know you're a JAWS user, but could you ever see yourself being tempted over to the Mac? You mentioned earlier on the idea of you seeing appeal in something like the iMac. Could you ever see yourself going, you know, cold turkey on Windows?
No, I could never see myself giving up Windows totally, apart from the fact that Windows is probably the most popular or most commonly used operating system among vision impaired and blind people, with JAWS and NVDA and Narrator and things like that. But I think maybe iMac, I suppose the only part I see me using it is if I had an iMac as a work device and an entertainment device. And that's where I'd see myself using an iMac. So you could watch your movies on it as well as take your FaceTime calls and your conference calls. So, and it's a really powerful device as well. But I don't see myself moving totally over to Mac. It'd be kind of a secondary device, but an expensive secondary device.
Yeah,
David.
For sure. I did notice that some of the prices on the entry level MacBook Pros have dropped a little bit, but still they're very expensive units. They really, really are. I've always kind of... Yeah, go ahead, Joe, sorry.
They mentioned, I think, $1,500. I don't know what that's going to transfer over to in euros. They generally don't transfer over the exact same as what you think they will, but it was $1,999, so it's now $1,599, I think they mentioned for the Mac Pro.
Yeah, that sounds right, yeah.
And iMac, about $1,299, so you could probably it'll be similar in euros anyway. They don't transfer it over in the actual transfer in the exact same rate, if you know what I mean. You won't get today's rate or anything, but they'll be roughly €1,200, I'd say, for the Mac.
Yeah,
iMac.
which I mean, it's look, I think when you factor in, and this was part of the reason I moved over to the Mac side a few years ago, was I was going to have to be getting a new Windows laptop, which would have to be at least decently powerful. And on top of that, you were also going to need to get like the upgrades for, in my case, probably JAWS and Zoom Text and all those kind of different related bits and pieces. And in the end, the MacBook was just more economical. Like, as I'm sitting here, I've got a MacBook to my right, and it's, you know, it's running Teams and all that, but it's effectively like running Zoom Text because I'm just using Apple's normal Zoom, and it's working fine. You know, it's no different for me, except the only difference is I don't have to pay for that because Zoom is built in, unlike on Windows. You can use Windows Magnifier, but I never found it as good. So I can see the appeal in switching to Mac, but I never did find VoiceOver for Mac to be as good as JAWS or even NVDA. So it's an interesting one. It really is an interesting kind of toss-up depending on your use case.
It is definitely an interesting conversation because I think the learning curve to move over to VoiceOver is quite big. There's a lot of keys to press for one keystroke. Like, I think there's Control, Option, Command, and F will say for find or something like that. Feels like a lot compared to Control F for find in a Windows machine. But saying that, you would get used to it, and it is good that you don't have to purchase a screen reader for the device for €800-900 or whatever JAWS is at the moment. I know there's grants sometimes available for certain people and work acquisition grants and all that kind of stuff, but they're a lot of hassle to go through,
Sure.
But saying that, yes, the Mac with the screen reader built in, excellent option, but it's not as easy to find peers out there to speak to and learn how to use it as it is with a Windows machine. Whereas every Tom, Dick and Harry has a Windows machine, but only 10% of your vision impaired peers will probably have a Mac. So there's the pros and cons of it.
Yeah, for sure.
People have to make up their own mind.
Well, there we go. Joe, final question, I guess, but before we move on from the Apple event, do you think there was a need for an Apple event last night, or would you have rather just had a press release? Do you think, sure, listen, it was a cool video, I enjoyed it, or are you more on the fence of, I would have just rather just read that?
Well, look, I suppose personally I would have rather to have read it, but saying that, it wasn't aimed at everybody. It's probably aimed at the more professional user, so it's aimed at a different customer. So yeah, I think that customer maybe needs an event as well.
Sure, that's fair. Thanks so much, Joe, for telling us all about the Apple event. It is available to stream on Apple's website, and audio description is available. The audio description, I don't know whether you listened to it last night, Joe. The audio description was superb, actually, as it often is with Apple events.
It often is amazing, but I didn't actually listen to it last night. The description, I had to I listened live on YouTube, so I didn't get the audio description.
Yeah, no, it is available anyway on apple.com with audio description, brilliant audio description. And if it's something you do want to learn more about, you can also check out the NCBI Labs YouTube channel, because we do have a 60-second summary of it over there as well, if you would like to check that out. Joe, thanks so much for telling us all about it.
Thanks, David.
Fantastic. Now, next up on Talking Technology today, it is time to talk about all things Braille. And starting us off to talk a little bit about all things Braille, I am delighted to welcome back to Talking Technology, after quite a while, it must be said, the one, the only, the legendary Mr. Brian Manning. Brian, how are you?
I'm very good, David, and how are you? You're presenting excellent. I've listened to the past few episodes, and you come across as the quintessential professional, may I say myself, David.
Stop trying to flatter me now, Brian. There's no need for that. But thank you, though. Much appreciated. Brian, firstly, welcome back. Brian, you've always been, I think, a massive advocate for Braille. I've known you quite a long time, and you've always been a big fan of Braille in all its forms, but Braille has evolved a lot in recent years. I remember you even showing me different Braille computers, and this must have been like probably 10 years ago. So Braille has evolved massively from the times of just the standard Perkins Brailler.
Absolutely. I mean, as I said, when I learned Braille back in the 70s, would you believe it? I mean, we had a number of options, but the Perkins Braille was definitely the better of all of those options, whereas it has evolved hugely, particularly in the past 10 or 15 years, when you have, I suppose, the whole evolution of digital Braille. And essentially, digital Braille has made Braille more accessible for all vision impaired or blind people, but more particularly for certain cohorts. And I suppose in recent years, the cohort that I have really concentrated on would be the benefits to people with dual sensory loss, people who would, for example, be deaf-blind. And we have, there is a percentage, particularly in the Cork area region, for some reason, we do have a lot of people with dual sensory loss, and because of that, we have concentrated on the advantages to learning Braille at an early age for deaf-blind people. And we've also focused in on the unique advantages and the unique personal benefits to learning Braille and to using digital Braille for deafblind people. And I mean, like, just even at a very basic level for communication or for personal for their own personal development. For example, I mean, like us all, through digital Braille, deafblind people can now have access to initiatives such as Bookshare. They can essentially read any book that's been published, which again is brilliant for anyone who's a deafblind person, who's a Braille user in general, I know, but specifically for a person who's deafblind. It has great implications for the inclusion of people who are deafblind. So, for example, I mean, they can participate in forums such as this. I know up to about a year ago, in NCBI and with other agencies, we did a lot of research, or we did a lot of background information seeking to see, I mean, how accessible could, for example, entertainment portals such as Netflix be for people who are deafblind. And once you have a standard Braille display connected to your iPhone, particularly, or to your, a JAWS or an NVDA machine, a Windows machine, or as Joe was saying there, even to an Apple Mac, which does support a lot of these Braille devices. I mean, you could, with subtitles turned on, for example, follow Netflix. We could follow YouTube, for example. And I remember watching a couple of episodes of The Vicar of Dibley, for example, just concentrating on a Netflix, with an iPhone, Netflix on, with subtitles turned on, and with your certain voiceover settings connected to your a focus suite Braille display. I could actually follow something like The Vicar of Dibley. Or again, I mean, because our iPhones now have dictation. For example, you can activate your chord WH on a standard Focus 40 or standard Focus suite Braille display. It opens the mic. So, I mean, if you're having a conversation with a deafblind person, the Braille will come up. Now, it's slow, and you need to be a fast Braille user, but it's a very, very possible thing to do. It's very, very doable, and it opens up the whole area of inclusion potentially for deafblind people. Again, we've checked. I remember Carol O'Mara was very involved with us at the time, and we checked things out like TED Talks. We worked with Stuart in Sight and Sound, and we actually held a Teams meeting, and using NVDA, we were able to follow, with the subtitles turned on, we were able to follow the actual thread of the meeting. And again, I mean, this has huge implications for deafblind people. So if you're a deafblind person and a good Braille user, and you know your digital technologies, then, for example, I mean, there's no reason why you can't go to your doctor or your solicitor, attend all of the standard, personal meetings and consultations that we all need to do at some stage in our life. And there's no reason why you can't do that, sure, with the potential on offer of these newly advanced Braille devices. So I think, that's just one cohort of people that I focused in recent years with all of these digital Braille enhancements. But I mean, obviously, if you're a Braille user, then it's brilliant for everyone, really.
Yeah, for sure. Brian, how difficult compared to, obviously, Braille can be a tough thing to learn, well worth it, but tough to learn maybe initially. But how difficult is it for someone who is deafblind to learn Braille compared to someone who might be blind or visually impaired, but does have the ability to hear things? How different is that process of learning Braille?
Well, it can be done. Obviously, it is more difficult. The more communicational disadvantages you have, any learning environment is going to be more difficult. But I mean, there are ways around it, and we have in NCBI, in conjunction with, for example, the Anne Sullivan Foundation, run programs exactly built around that, where we are teaching Braille to deafblind people, and it has worked very, very successfully. What we also find is a lot of these dual sensory loss, a lot of the conditions can lead to blindness before deafness. So, for example, a lot of the generic or the hereditary conditions can lead to sight loss before hearing loss. and where there's no huge advantage to that, but at least you can get the opportunity to teach, for example, a blind child Braille before the hearing loss kicks in. So there are ways around it, and there are other ways of communicating with deaf-blind people that you can utilise when you're teaching them Braille. But again, I would suggest to anyone who works with deaf-blind people that Braille communication is should be compulsory. Really, it's a necessity for the person with dual sensory loss, at every level, to learn Braille so that they can communicate, be included in their community, have access to all of the information that we all need in the information age, be it through reading of general books or through the internet, through communication such as emails, text messaging, participating in the social media through Facebook, Twitter, etc. It's all accessible if you have Braille and if you have the digital the means to digital Braille communication. It's there for you.
For sure, for sure. Now, one of the service users that we worked with here in NCBI is someone you know well, Brian, and that is Alexis Cooney. And Alexis spoke to us recently, spoke to one of our colleagues, Peter Claridge Bowler, to tell him a little bit about how Braille has assisted her in managing and just being able to be independent. So we'll come back to you in a second, Brian, but let's listen to this piece from Alexis Cooney now.
Hello all and welcome. My name is Peter. I'm one of the technology specialists here at the NCBI, and today I'm joined by the wonderful Alexis and her support worker, Renee. Renee is going to be translating Alexis's signs, as Alexis is deafblind and uses Irish Sign Language as her main form of communication. But in this interview, we're going to be covering how Braille has supported Alexis and how it's allowed her to develop as a person. So, just take it away. So, Alexis, what can you tell me how Braille has helped you? How can you tell me that Braille has helped you?
It has helped me to communicate with my family and friends. And the Braille helped me read the books and read the news on RTE app. So, tell us, how has NCBI supported you with your Braille journey? How has NCBI helped me? From Cork first, and then I moved to Dublin, and the NCBI in Dublin helped me. First I had a teacher named Brian Manning. He gave me trainings with Braille. And then in Dublin I had another teacher in NCBI called Audrey. In here, it stopped after a while. And then I found a teacher from Limerick. He's Peter. Alexis, can you tell me how the Braille Sense 6 has helped you keep connected? With my family and friends every day. I have my own privacy now texting. Staff don't need to help me now. And that interview was conducted by myself and Alexis, who is a wonderful individual and a fantastic example of what Braille technology has offered today for people of all kinds, being it blind, deaf-blind, across the world. It allows access to all of this wonderful technology.
We'll come back over to Peter in just a second, but before we do, Brian, just to come back to you for 1 second. We heard there Alexis speak about even something as simple as being able to read things like RTE News. Like, how important is just little stuff like that outside of even communication, which is obviously crucial, and that independence that she spoke about. But those little things like that entertainment, being able to read RTE News, stay informed with the world, how important is something like that?
Well, David, we live in the information age, and it's important for everyone to be able to keep in touch with what's going on around us. And, that's just one example as to how Alexis and other deafblind people can keep in touch with, topical events or current affairs or or whatever. And I mean, one of the first things that I remember working with Alexis on was, without getting into the personal detail, a number of Alexis family members live abroad, so we were able to set up email, and Alexis was able to keep in contact with her, her nieces and nephews and her sisters and everything through email. So even and that's just an example as to how family communication can be so vitally important. And again, I mean, Alexis was able to kind of keep in contact with a huge network of friends from within the Cork Deaf Association, which again we used through email, and that was brilliant for Alexis. Alexis is a very social individual, and that really enhanced her ability to keep those social circles going. So that was really very, very good. And again, as Alexis mentioned in that interview there, she loves reading, and we were able to kind of go through different books and things like that, and that was very important to Alexis as well. So again, that's just and I don't want to personalize it to too finite a detail, but again, I mean, one very good example as to how digital Braille can keep a person active in their own community is, I mean, before. We all remember how big Braille was, and your average Braille, your average printed book might take 20 volumes in Braille to produce. And so therefore that kind of almost made reading to a large extent inaccessible for blind people and for deaf-blind people also, obviously. Whereas because of digital Braille, it is miniaturized Braille. So, and for example, now, when the Braille devices came out initially, we had 80 cell displays, and then we went to 40 cell displays, and now we're down to 10 and 14 cell displays. And again, that has kind of further enhanced Braille's ability to become more portable. So now we can have these little Braille devices in our pockets. So Alexis or another deafblind person can have it in her handbag, or if it was a man in your shirt pocket. And so, for example, a deafblind person can actually go to the bus driver and just ask, is this the bus to Cork? Activate the core WH to open the microphone, and if the bus driver says, this is the bus to Crosshaven, then you're on the right bus. Whereas before, you were dependent on having someone with you to even just get that little piece of information. Or again, I mean, Braille works a lot with these scanning, these OCR apps and pieces of software. So, for example, you can, go scan a menu and have just read it with your Focus 14. Or again, you can just call the waiter over asking if there's a chicken option in the menu. And if he says, yes, there's chicken such and such, then you can read it on your Braille display. So again, these are just token examples as to how these new technologies can enhance the inclusion of everyone, but particularly people who are deafblind. And I think that's something that we need to concentrate on as an agency and in collaboration with other agencies, such as, the Anne Sullivan Foundation, and there are other deafblind support organisations out there. And we all need to take leadership on this, I think, and show the way for, perhaps the most needing of our service users.
For sure. Peter, if I could bring you in there as well. You've also worked with people who are deafblind. You did that interview there with Alexis as well. But for you, how have you noticed this kind of technology having an impact? It's clearly quite a massive enabler for everything as simple as communication. And you mentioned before to us here about an interaction in a restaurant that you had with a deafblind service user. That I'll let you explain that, actually, because do you want to tell us a little bit about how that interaction played out and what that meant for that service user?
Yeah, absolutely. And the service user was actually Alexis herself. She happily volunteered to try this out with us. And so what we did, we had the Braille Sense 6 note taker and a Bluetooth keyboard, and you can connect the Bluetooth keyboard to the Braille Sense 6, hand it to a sighted or a person who knows how to type, and the individual who's inputting on the Bluetooth keyboard, it will come up immediately on the refreshable display. So the deaf-blind individual can read the question or conversation and reply in kind via the synthetic speech that is available on the Braille Sense 6. So as the deaf-blind person is typing, it's either speaking it, but depending on what the size of the device is, if you have the 32-cell Braille Sense 6, it has a LCD display at the top, which allows a sighted person to be able to read the conversation. And it's that two-way communication of instant reply. So what happened was we handed over this Bluetooth keyboard to the waitress, and we just said, ask her what would she like. And the waitress typed out, what would you like to have? And Alexis replied immediately. And it was that instant response. There was no delay. There was no need for someone to interpret for her. She could read it and reply.
And how important is that? That's obviously like critical, because you're not always going to have an ISL interpreter necessarily with you all of the time.
No, that's exactly it, isn't it? It's great for family members, more precisely, family members who don't know Irish Sign Language, or members of the public or friends who may not know Irish Sign Language well enough on their own, or the interpreter's busy doing something else, so that it gives that option of, I can still communicate with anyone with this technology available to me. And so it has allowed her just to communicate with friends who don't know ISL very well. She communicates with me with it. Sometimes I've learned ISL to aid in kind of some teaching elements, but I'm still learning. She's teaching me ISL. And so there are times I have to take the keyboard and type to her just to explain something I haven't got the knowledge to yet.
Sure. It's an incredible use of Braille, and something I think that a lot of people, may not, for whatever reason, consider. But it's a really fascinating use case for a technology like Braille. And it's really, you'd wonder, when Louis Braille invented Braille all those years ago, did he consider it for people who are deafblind? It's quite incredible. Brian, is there any kind of final thoughts you'd like to add on that before we move on?
Well, again, we have a number of cohorts, and Peter is right there. Like, for example, when the Braille Sense suite of devices came out, because they had that little LCD display on them, it totally opened up the whole teaching of Braille within schools as well. Because up to now, up to just say 15 years ago, until the Braille note takers had this display, the teacher had to learn Braille if they were going to interact with the child through Braille and the parent. Whereas now, because of these devices, the teacher doesn't need to learn Braille anymore, because whatever the child is writing, or the parent doesn't need to learn Braille anymore, because what the child is writing is coming up on the display. So it's all automatically translated for everyone and converted for everyone. So again, it just really means that Braille has become more accessible to everyone now. And, even in the classroom for teacher student learning and things like that. So it's brilliant. It's really, really has brought on Braille. And again, obviously, if your child is born blind, then you're going to need to learn or to teach the child Braille just for basic literacy and numeracy. So again, digital Braille has really helped in that type of a scenario as well. So everyone benefits, really.
Out of curiosity, just quickly, do you think parents of visually impaired or blind kids should endeavour to learn Braille themselves?
It does no harm, but it's vital that the child learns Braille. But it does no harm, obviously. And it's a good skill to have at any level. What I learned was, I learned Braille when I was a child. But later on, when, I was learning other means of communication, you'll find that some of the concepts, work right across the board, and there's a huge crossover in learning, so it's a skill that is no harm to have. And again, obviously, for the parent-child relationship, it has to be good as well. Absolutely. It's not as vital as it used to be, but it is because of the digital note takers and things like that. But it's no harm.
Absolutely. Brian, thank you so much. Peter, I do want to move on slightly onto another Braille-related topic, because you have recently been trying out and have been a massive advocate for the Braille Sense 6. Before we go into too much detail about the Braille Sense 6, firstly, what is the Braille Sense 6? And also, what even is, if we break it down to its most simple level, what is a Braille note taker?
So we have to make the distinction here. A Braille note taker is a device that can function independently without needing to be connected to a smart device or a laptop or any external source. It has its own built-in operating system. The Braille Sense 6 actually runs Android 10, I believe, at the moment, and is expecting an upgrade soon from HIMS. They have really pushed out very hard with this particular product to constantly update the software. The Braille Sense 6 is essentially, we describe it as essentially an Android tablet with a Braille interface. So underneath the entire system, you have Android 10 with just basic overlays such as a word processor, independent emailing system, book share downloads, book access, media systems. But the fantastic thing about this product, it has access to the Google Play Store. So that means you can download third-party apps, such as, let's say, Netflix, Disney Plus, Audible, Kindle, and access them directly from the unit itself. And that's amazing. That means you don't need another device to do it for you. You can just access it from it. So
and is that using something like TalkBack or BrailleBack then, or is it a totally custom
setup? It's a
setup?
mixture of both HIMS's built-in screen reader and TalkBack.
Okay, fascinating.
So it's kind of a combo because it has multiple speech output options that actually have different focuses. So when you're in a third-party app, typically TalkBack would be used. But when you're using the Braille Sense 6's main list of operations and main list of systems, it's the Braille Sense screen reader.
And what does the Braille Sense feel like? Like, would it be accurate to call this almost like a Braille laptop, if you will?
It's about maybe 6 or 7 inches wide and about 5 or 6 inches long. And so it's not quite a tablet because it has just a Perkins-style keyboard on top with a couple of other buttons such as a spacebar, Control, Alt, and the function keys, which is F1 to F4 on this device. And of course, the refreshable Braille display underneath that, which is, depending on the size you get, it's either 20 cells or 32.
That's interesting. So how do you find yourself using the Braille Sense 6?
Oh, I use it I'm constantly on it.
You're a big fan of it.
At work, I'm constantly using it. I use it to write emails, to write letters, to read documents, to do my research, to go on the web and access such as material, let's say Wikipedia. It has that capability of just being able to run on its own. So I don't have to touch a computer. I don't have to touch my phone.
Yeah, that's got an incredible, that's an incredibly capable device then when you don't need that. But out of curiosity, can it also act as like a Braille display or a Braille keyboard?
Yes,
Does
it
have that
absolutely.
ability?
Oh, absolutely. It's got what's called a terminal mode. So you can connect via USB or by Bluetooth to your preferred device. And so, yeah, but you can switch between those functions really quickly, though, which is the great advantage of it. Because in some older displays or some older note takers, when you had to switch between those functions, it essentially restarted the whole device into note taker mode or into terminal mode. There wasn't that quick switch or connection check. It had to essentially turn off, turn back on in the setting it had just been switched to.
Sure. Is there other competitors at the moment to the Braille Sense 6, or is it in a league of its own, would you say?
At the moment, the only real major competitor would have to be the Braille Note Touch Plus. But I will have to stipulate that there's not been many updates regarding internal software operating systems. So the Braille Note Touch Plus is an official Google Android Braille tablet with a touch screen and a Perkins style keyboard, but it has seen time go by quite quickly. Unfortunately, it came out in 2017, and unfortunately it hasn't kept up.
Okay.
There have been now some reports coming in that as the software's gotten older, it's no longer able to connect to the internet, or it's having more problems with newer software coming along because of the old Android system it's using.
Fair enough. Interesting stuff. Just to give an example of one way that the Braille Sense 6, in this case, can be used. You recorded a demo for us, Peter, of how to download a Bookshare book onto the Braille Sense. But before we do this, am I correct in thinking that this is totally independent? The Braille Sense here isn't using any like third-party computer or anything. It's just able to operate totally independently as you type on it and navigate using it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it works. It can work completely independently. It's its own contained system. So it has it again. So it has its own built-in Bookshare system and Daisy player. So you can go directly to Bookshare via the internal system and download whatever book you want and read it from the moment go.
That's incredible.
It's a really simple process as well.
Well, let's listen to this demo now, and this gives you a great example of just such a simple task, but how capable at the same time something like the Braille Sense 6 is.
Hello there, my name is Peter. I'm one of the technology specialists here at the NCBI, and today we're going to be demoing how to download a book from Bookshare on the Braille Sense 6. And first, we're going to start off by navigating through the main menus and work our way down to Books.
Word processor, Notepad, email, media, books, K.
Then from that point, we work our way down to Bookshare Download.
Daisy player, D, document reader, K. Online Daisy, O, Bookshare download, B.
And after that, we hit Search. We go and tab into the search function and search by title.
Search content. Books 1/4 list item. Title 1/5 list item. Title, edit box.
And there, today we're going to look up one of the Harry Potter books.
.6 A H A R R Y space POTTER.
Now, from that point, we go and browse the selection available to us and choose which book we want to download. From there, we press F3, which jumps us to the download function, and then we download the book.
Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Harry Potter and the Chamber. Download book button.
Exit Bookshare Download, move our way up, back to the Daisy player, press Enter, and look for the book that we just downloaded.
Bookshare Download, B. Online Daisy, document reader, K. Daisy player, D. Open to Doctor Who and the Robots of Death, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, J.K. Rowling folder 3/confirm button.
And Peter, you can just, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you can just read that in Braille then, can you?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to read it along with the the screen reader, you can. So it offers that kind of dual reading at the same time. So the screen reader will only read the refreshable line that is currently on the display. And so when you refresh the line, it moves on and follows what the reader is reading in Braille as well. So you can have that dual input.
Going back to what Alexis Cooney was saying earlier on, I mean, that just shows the true potential of a device like this, even for like something as simple as reading books. Maybe if someone is deafblind, or if they are just blind and just simply want to read instead of listening to synthetic speech all day, or having to get different audible books and so on. It provides a great extra option, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. I mean, for me personally, I'm a very big fan of Braille. I don't really like synthetic speech. If I'm honest, I turn it off and just use the Braille display or Braille note taker that's to hand, because I find reading in Braille a lot more, I can absorb more of what I'm reading instead of via synthetic speech. So it offers it's that offer of what you can do, what you can choose to do.
Fantastic. Before we let you go, Peter, one last question. Is it an expensive device, and would you recommend it?
It is a rather expensive device. It's about, if you get the Braille Sense Mini, which is the 20-cell Braille display, it's about, I know it's upwards of 4,000 euros.
Whoa.
If I haven't got the numbers to hand, but I know it's above 4,000 euros. And the Braille Sense standard model, which is a 32-cell Braille display, it clocks in just over 5,000 euros. But if you are someone who wants an independent device without having to worry about connecting it to Bluetooth or finding the cables to connect it to your computer, and just want to be able to use Braille to function in everything, then yeah, I would absolutely recommend this. But if you don't need that, if you don't want that option, then I would say buy a high-end Braille display, something like the Mantis or the Mantis Q40 from Humanware, or the Brilliant, one of the Brilliant series from Humanware, or one of the other providers out there, such as HandyTech, as a few others out there. Orbit is one of them. So there is option out there, but I would suggest that the Braille Sense 6 is something that you invest in for keeping track of appointments, accessing personal information, being comfortable more reading and sending things in Braille than accessing things via the computer or your smart device.
Sure. It's cool to have that all in one. An expensive product, but for some people, it may be of a massive benefit. Peter, thank you so much for telling us about it. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much for having me today, David. Thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah, a really cool little device. I must say it's really impressive. I've seen Peter working with the Braille Sense 6 before, and it really is quite an impressive little unit that, it can just do everything. It's a fully standalone device. You can have it on the table and just do what you need to do. And sure, it's expensive, but for someone who maybe is deafblind or whatever the circumstance may be, if you're very reliant on Braille, it's an incredible little device. There's no doubting that for sure. Alrighty, with that said, let's move on to our next topic, which just so happens to be Talking Technology News.
This is Talking Technology News.
So, with your latest Talking Technology News, I'm Daniel Dunn. Apple had an online event last night where they announced some new processors and Mac computers. The event, called Scary Fast, was heavily Halloween themed, with phrases like monster speeds, wicked fast, and welcome to my lab abundant throughout. The three new processors announced are the M3, the M3 Pro, and the M3 Max, which now use a 3-nanometer process. The new chips are coming to the MacBook Pro laptops, giving them insane levels of power, with the M3 chip also arriving to the iMac all-in-one desktop computer. The MacBook Pro now has a new Pro color available called Space Black, so if that's your thing, you can now have that option. Interestingly, the entire event was shot on iPhone and edited on Mac, with even the drone shots recorded using iPhone. The event is available to stream on Apple's website, with audio description available if you need it. In other news, Xbox are rolling out changes to their product that might impact players with disabilities. News website Windows Central report that players using third-party accessories have been receiving pop-ups telling them that their unauthorized third-party accessories will no longer be allowed from November 12th. Xbox advises returning the accessory and instead referring to its list of authorized products on its website. This has resulted in some gamers with disabilities speaking out, as for some people, third-party accessories have been the only comfortable way to access games. Following publication of the article on Windows Central, an Xbox spokesperson said Microsoft and other licensed Xbox hardware partners' accessories are designed and manufactured with quality standards for performance, security, and safety. Unauthorized accessories can compromise the gaming experience on Xbox consoles. Players may receive a pop-up warning that their accessory is unauthorized. Eventually, the unauthorized accessory will be blocked from use to preserve the console gaming experience. We did reach out to Xbox for a response to the accessibility concerns, but no response has been received by the time we went live. It's an interesting situation and certainly not ideal for those using unauthorized accessories to make their gaming experience accessible. Finally, for now, OpenAI are rolling out a new feature for their ChatGPT chatbot. It can analyze uploaded files such as PDFs. You can then ask questions on the information contained in the document. We tried the tool using a known inaccessible PDF, which couldn't be read by a screen reader. The tool tried and failed to use text extraction, but acknowledged that there might be an error in its approach. It then converted the PDF pages to images and attempted to use OCR, but again failed. Ultimately, the tool wasn't able to give analysis of the inaccessible document, which will be disappointing for those hoping the tool could break down more barriers. For accessible documents, things do work well with ChatGPT, summarizing key points and answering questions without much hassle. Tackling large documents is still a struggle for AI, but with that said, all these improvements are making a difference for those with disabilities. So that's it for now, but if you want more news just like this, be sure to sign up for the NCBI Labs newsletter on the NCBI website. And with that, it's back to you, David.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Daniel, are you much of an Xbox gamer yourself?
No, gosh, I cannot remember the last time I had some time to sit down in front of a console or even the PC and play a game. Eons ago I would have.
Sure.
But sadly not
What
anymore.
was your game of choice? Were you a FIFA man?
A little bit, but Mario Kart, I have to say, is the all-time favourite.
He's a good man with Mario Kart on the Wii. Good man.
Absolutely. It was the game of choice back a few years back, let's say.
Yeah, for sure. How do you feel about that story there about those third-party accessories? How impactful do you think this will be on people with disabilities? I mean, gaming for blind people has never been a massive thing that really took off, but in recent years there have been a bit of progression for users of Xbox and PlayStation, but this seems like a few steps backwards.
It does, yeah. It's unfortunate that we're supposed to be progressing and seeing things, the Internet of Things, and this comes from a whole aspect of different features that are supposed to be able to communicate and talk with each other nowadays, and this kind of seems to fly in the face of what's happening in all other aspects of IT. Why would an accessory, be took away from accessing a game? I think it is really a retrograde step by Xbox, and one they really should consider reversing, and obviously if there is security issues, fix them.
Yeah, it's one way to look at it for sure. It's it's going to be interesting to see if there's much backlash to this when it actually happens. The date there is November 12th, and I've got to imagine that it's going to be more than just people with disabilities who are using third-party Xbox controllers and all those kind of things. So we'll have to wait and see if there's much backlash to this, but I can't imagine gamers in particular taking it too well when their controller that they've paid their money for just randomly stops working because Xbox or Microsoft have decided to make it so. So it's interesting, isn't it?
And like as I was saying there earlier on, like all stuff is supposed to be coming together and talk to each other. But even if you wanted to take how the EU have pushed Apple to accept USB-C 3 charging, to cut down on the amount of USB or phone chargers that are out there that, one charger is going to work nearly all phones.
For sure.
It's, so for people now to take this tech after the 12th of November and effectively dump it, where's the consistency on this? Why are the authorities like the EU not stepping in here and saying, you're gonna cause so much e-waste by this move,
yeah,
Microsoft.
It's an interesting point.
Really reconsider it, please. And I know obviously they can't force them to do it, but they can strong arm them.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It worked with Apple and Microsoft. Who knows? It'll really depend, I think, on how many people they upset. So we'll have to really wait and see.
Yeah, it's definitely one to track to see how much kind of outcry there is about it, and how much is going to take up the Twitter. The Twitter lines, I suppose. Normally, that's where a lot of this kind of public opinion comes from, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. And there's one thing you can certainly say for gamers: they can be a passionate bunch. So we'll have to wait and see how that one plays out. Another story breaking in the last little while that isn't actually in the Talking Technology news there, but I'll bring you in here, Joe. YouTube are adding some restrictions for users who are using ad blockers. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this?
Yes, David, this is an interesting one because there's lots of people out there, including our own service users, that have ad blockers on their machine. And look, everybody knows ads, they can be good, I suppose, to advertise your stuff, but they can be really annoying when you're trying to read content on the internet. So then we install an ad blocker. But YouTube make their money, make their revenue from ads, of course, and same with content creators. They make most of their money from ads. And without the content creators, we wouldn't have a video platform called YouTube. So they in their policy, they say they don't allow ad blockers anyway, but now they're really pushing it through and ramping it home, because if they have special software on their platform that recognizes if you have an ad blocker installed, and once they recognize that, you will get a message to say you cannot watch this video because you have an ad blocker installed. You can either uninstall the ad blocker or pay premium, which will be $11.99 a month. So there are your two ways around it.
So technically what we have is an ad blocker.
An ad blocker. And how do we get around the ad blocker?
That's one way to
make a new one. Blocker.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's the trick. But I suppose there's a few solutions. I suppose number one solution that YouTube would love is if we all paid premium, which is $11.99 a month. It would be worth it for some people, as I said in an article I wrote, because you can download videos and have them to view later on. That's one cool feature. Or you can listen to videos while you're using other apps, and you can also listen to stuff while your phone is locked. Where currently, if you want to listen to a long YouTube video, you'll have to have your phone unlocked, and the screen will be active. And if you have your phone in your pocket and your screen is active, it might activate other videos and be really annoying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there are a couple of features if you do pay. But another solution, I was thinking, maybe you could have two browsers. You could have one browser with ad blocker on it for all your other stuff, and then maybe a secondary browser, Firefox or Edge or whatever your chosen one is, just for YouTube.
Do you know what's
that's what
really
I was thinking.
Interesting about YouTube. Go ahead, sorry, Joe.
Yes, so that's what I was thinking. But also there is some, we'll say, more advanced ad blockers out there that you can open the gate to. You can allow certain sites to get through the gate, if you know what I mean. So you could say you can allow YouTube but block everything else. So there's your solutions. But I'm making service users aware, because they could get a fright when they see that their access to YouTube videos will be denied, and they won't be allowed to play their favourite channels. And hopefully they'll be still able to watch our own channel, Talking Technology.
Absolutely.
But I mean,
kind of a double-edged sword, isn't it, Joe? You can appreciate that the content creators who do put their time and effort into producing a video for everybody to watch, and they rely, some of them rely on income coming from YouTube. It's a paltry amount, unless you're getting a huge amount of hits anyway, but that is why content creators will have a disdain or a dislike for ad blockers. But then you can understand people, ads come on and
free
to
stuff
come on
is
now
nice
even
too,
halfway through it, or
and
like a
it can be
TV show
awkward,
now.
for screen.
Yes, Daniel, I
videos
agree.
too.
It is a double-edged sword, and to keep it going and to make it a very profitable exercise, they have to probably come up with this. So I suppose, look, there is other ways around it. As I said, you either pay for it or put up with it, kind of a thing.
That's it.
Do you pay for premium, Joe?
No, I don't. But the one thing I probably, if I was going to pay, I'd pay for that feature. About listening to videos while my phone screen is locked. That would be one thing I would pay for, I suppose. I just haven't got around to it yet. But there's so many subscriptions now, David. There's like Netflix, Disney Plus, Apple TV Plus. But yeah, and look, I suppose when this ad blocker thing gets really pushed through, it might force me to pay up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go. I think Joe just admitted to using an ad blocker. Interesting stuff, Joe.
Yeah. Well, on one of my browsers anyway.
Look, it's one of these things. One thing you mentioned there, Joe, is the ability to use, or continue watching videos when you close the YouTube app, right? I don't actually use an ad blocker, but something I have used on occasions is a VPN, right? And interestingly, if you trick YouTube into thinking that you're in the States using a VPN, it will actually, for whatever reason, it will continue to play the video in that little window interface when you close the app. I don't know why that works in the States and not in Ireland. But it's a random little thing that I've noticed, and I've no idea why. I would never pay for it, mind you, for me. But yeah, I can see the appeal for sure.
I noticed that happens actually. If somebody ever sent you a YouTube video through WhatsApp, it'll pop up in that small little window and it'll stay there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that. And obviously, I'm not in the States, or do I have a VPN to the States? So, but that's the only other time that's the only time I've seen a little windowed version of YouTube pop up. It's like its own little tiny window.
Yeah, for sure.
And it does stay playing. So maybe the tree, David, is to YouTube or to WhatsApp yourself the YouTube video link, and off you go.
I'm lazy though, Daniel. That's the only thing.
I think by just them two examples there just shows you how popular YouTube is. I think everything is on YouTube, and I think there is lots of people paying for it now at this stage.
Has to be. YouTube is making its money, and there is income coming in for creators now. So it does have to be. There does have to be a good base of people paying for it, because I can't imagine that everybody's watching those, 2, sometimes even 3 ads in front of a video now. Do you know? So interesting stuff. Joe, thank you so much for telling us about that. Do hang around, because I think you're chatting quick picks with us in just a second. But if people do want to check out a YouTube channel, we do have an NCBI Labs YouTube channel here, as Joe mentioned there earlier on. Just search for NCBI Labs on YouTube and be sure to hit that subscribe button. Look at me doing all the creator talk now.
And to turn off the ad blocker before you do.
Yes. Well, we earn nothing from it. So, but do turn it off, because you never know what the future might bring. It is certainly, we try and do some good content over there. Even just today, we have that 60-second summary of the Apple event. So if technology stuff is your thing, do for sure check it out. But for now, let's talk quick picks, shall we?
It's time for NCBI Labs Quick Picks.
And sticking with the Braille theme for quick picks today, we have 2 really cool products that I think we've mentioned a little bit on the podcast before, but we'll chat about them today as well. One that we've certainly mentioned is the Hable One. Joe, firstly, do you want to tell me a little bit about the Hable One? Because I'm really looking quite closely at the Hable One, I must say, at the moment.
Yes, the Hable One, very interesting product. Actually, we had Mairead that done a tech review on this product. You can find it on our website, ncbi.ie/technology. But Yes, it's a product that you can control your smartphone with, and it has the Braille keys. So, but we hold in your hand a little bit like a game controller, and you can read your phone screen, do your social media, watch videos, all that kind of stuff. Control all them areas of your phone, and you don't have to learn any complicated gestures. Some people just can't get a hang of those gestures, and they might find this device is a lot more intuitive and is a better, more ergonomic device for them when controlling a smartphone. It works on Android and iOS, and it's very intuitive, as I said, and easy to learn. It retails in around the €340 mark, or around that price. Not sure the exact price, but that's the last time I heard about it. Was around 340, and it has a 50-hour battery life. So that lasts most users probably 2 to 3 weeks. Maybe not myself and yourself, David, but an average user, it will last a fair while.
So average now, Joe.
I think I mentioned yesterday and there one time your screen time was what?
Yeah, it was like 10 hours.
We won't mention them any.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know what I mean. But it's a great little device. I'm not sure if you have any opinion on it yourself, David. You've been looking at it.
Yeah, no. What really has stood out to me about the Hable, right? I'm not a massive Braille user, right? But what I really like about the Hable is the ability that it has to just effectively control the phone like it's a remote control. That you have, there's your 6 Braille dots from 1 to 6, but you also have dots, say, if you will, 7 and 8, right? So you can use those buttons 7 and 8 to control different actions on your phone. So for example, if you're on the home screen and you wanted to perform a, flick from left to right to move forward, all you'd have to do on the Hable is hold 7 and press 8, and then you can keep progressing through your items. And then it's just the reverse of that. If you want to move backwards, hold 8, press 7. And then if you want to double tap, just press 7 and 8 together and you've double tapped. And I really like that just simple kind of style of navigation for someone who isn't a proficient voiceover user or doesn't want to learn all of the different gestures, or maybe who can't physically do a lot of the voiceover gestures. The Hable 1 is a great little unit for what it does, and it's in the scheme of Braille products, that's not a huge amount of money. It's steep for sure as iPhone accessories or Android accessories go, but it's a really capable little device for sure.
Yes, it's a controller. Yeah, just to be clear to anyone, it's not a refreshable Braille device or anything like that. It controls your device, and it's a reasonable price. And as you said, it takes out some of that learning curve or some of those difficult gestures to learn. It's quite intuitive. So that's probably to do with the popularity of it. I know it's very popular.
Absolutely. And a product that I don't think we've discussed in too much detail on Talking Technology before, but it's from a company that Peter mentioned earlier on. This is the Orbit Writer.
Yes, the Orbit Writer. This is another Braille device. It does very similar things to the Hable 1. It's probably a different shape. It's probably more rectangular, but it's got scissor style keys, so it's nice and tactile. It's got the Perkins style, keyboard, so you have your 6 keys again, and it works with all smartphones. It connects to your computer as well, so it can actually connect it to 5 devices. Again, a long battery life, 2 hours charging time, and you can get I think it was 40 hours or something battery life again. But look, you're not going to be using these devices for the 8 hours. You could be playing videos, you could be watching your phone and stuff. You might only be typing for a certain amount of time, so you could get up to a month out of these devices when you're actually using them. The Orbit Writer, well worth it. It's probably a third of the price. $100 I seen lately for it. I'm not sure how much it is in euros, but probably wouldn't be much more than 120 euros.
That's really interesting.
so it's very reasonable. It's probably not as popular as the Havel. The Havel is probably more ergonomic, but the Orbit Rider is definitely a good choice for some people out there. You can also attach a lanyard to it. It's very portable and squeezes in your pocket, shirt pocket or inside pocket in your jacket. It's a very nice device as well.
Awesome. Fantastic. Joe, thank you so much for telling us about those really cool products for sure. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thanks, David.
So that is it. Thank you so much for joining us on this Braille episode of Talking Technology. We spoke about so much more than Braille in the end, from the Apple event to those changes coming to Xbox and YouTube. But thank you so much for sticking with us over the last little while. We will be back in 2 weeks' time, so don't go anywhere. Be sure to follow us over on all the different podcast apps and subscribe on YouTube. Enjoy the trick-or-treating if you're heading out tonight. Hopefully you'll be bringing back loads of different sweets. And yeah, who knows what will happen. But we will see you in 2 weeks' time for another episode of Talking Technology. For now, thanks for listening, and we'll see you then.
Thanks for listening to the Talking Technology podcast with NCBI Labs. If you would like to support our show, you can visit donate.ncbi.ie. The NCBI Labs Talking Technology podcast is proudly sponsored by IA Labs, the market leader in the provision of digital accessibility services.